Hi guys, my name is Rena Cokayne. I'm a holistic specialist, counsellor and couples therapist. Today we're here with Sarah, who is our matchmaking and dating expert. And as it's heartbreak season, we've been talking about cheating and infidelity, controlling relationships, why people cheat, and loads of other different topics. Today we're going to be talking about to ghost and to be ghosted. So welcome Sarah, how are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited to be here. And while, breakup season and heartbreak season and all that jazz sounds really negative, I just think you and I have got so much input that can lead towards positive progress for people that are about to ghost someone, or those who have been ghosted and struggling to move forward with the ripple effects that goes with being ghosted. I'm excited to help a few people, I think.
Brilliant. Now, there's so many people. I mean, obviously, when I told them we was going to be doing this today, that some people don't know what ghosting is. So what is ghosting, Sarah?
So, ghosting is when somebody within a relationship decides that they obviously no longer want to be with their partner. And so, rather than, communicating, talking, getting to grips with the reasons why, they kind of rheumatize and go through the motions themselves within their mind, and they up and leave. And so ghosting can be it can be digital, and millennials know all too well, anyone that's using dating apps get ghosted all of the time. And it's kind of like where you block, delete, remove socially, online, somebody that you are about to date. Perhaps you've just been communicating with them, having a chit chat before you go on your first date. You decide for whatever reason that they're not for you, and instead of vocalizing that and communicating it, just getting rid. Or on a deeper level, it can be somebody who is already in a relationship that is ghosted by their partner, who's decided they no longer want to be with you and can't inevitably deal with the consequences of communicating that to you. So it's a bit of a Houdini act, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I totally understand that because I felt like that in my previous relationship, but I just wanted to run away, to be fair. And, I didn't have the balls, so to speak, to do something like that. I think it's a bit of a personal opinion. It's a bit of a cowardly way to do things, but these are the things, the emotional roller coaster that people go through. It does actually torment you and beat you up inside to actually go through that and then still lay down next to your partner at night thinking, but I don't want to be with you. Does that make sense? So I can totally understand. Now, this is something that's quite personal to yourself, isn't it? So what's your views on this?
Well, I find it really interesting because you and I, Rena, we've had like different sides of the coin where we have our own experiences with wanting to ghost and myself being ghosted. So for you, I'm sure we'll get to grips with it. You obviously have felt like you didn't want to be with somebody and you wanted to leave the relationship and you didn't know how to vocalize it, so you internalized. For myself, I was in a very long-term relationship where my partner left without any deep explanation, and all of his things were gone from our home, and I had to deal with the aftermath, which was basically a grief. Because I'm grateful today because I've taken so many learnings of what it is like for somebody to leave your relationship and inevitably the life that you had together and having to rebuild. I think, I'm not saying that there's anything good about it, but I've taken my learnings and they're very positive for myself because I've learned, how resilient I am, how I can work through things. So the best way I can describe it, Rena, is that when you are ghosted, in my circumstance, rather than digitally, when you have that emotional connection, you can see your relationship and your life ahead of you with that person. When they up and leave, it's like a grief, the same for the loss of life. It's just, I've lost people in my time, and the only thing I could relate it to was the same grief, the process of losing somebody. But it might sound traumatic if you haven't been through it, but the grief sounds the grief was more horrific than the loss of life, because I knew that person was still alive, didn't want our relationship, and didn't want me as a person or a friend. Didn't It felt to me like not valuing a friendship, which to me is my core value, to maintain deep friendships as well as our relationship. So the ripple effect was the grief process of loss of love. It was, anger, it was depression, it was bargaining with myself and trying to communicate with somebody who didn't want to communicate back, and try to negotiate regaining our relationship. And it's been in shock and denial that somebody didn't want to be with you so badly that they didn't want to speak to you about it. They decided that after 7 years it was the best thing to do to just leave. So 7 years. Yes, that's correct, Rena.
Yeah, 7 years. That's a long time as well. Now, I mean, it must have been hard because you must have been thinking why. You've got no reason as to why. You've come home from work and expecting to see your partner there, and everything's gone. That must have been horrific.
Yeah.
How long did it take you? Are you even over it? And if so, how long did it take you to move on from that situation?
Do you know what? I'm so pleased that you asked that question, because it happened to me 2 years ago now. 2 years ago. And when you go through those stages, the anger, the depression, the denial, the shock, you're literally, your body is experiencing a trauma, and you're going through, and I still had to run a business, an international matchmaking firm. I felt like an absolute imposter in my career as a matchmaker, as an advocate for love. And I just didn't want to be here, really. And the best way I can tell you that I got through it, and to answer your question, is yes, I'm totally over it. And I have taken my learnings, and I'm grateful every day for what I have. There are a few reasons why I am. One is that I met a woman so I blogged about my heartbreak, and I built a business called The Heartbreak Coach. A woman reached out to me to tell me how it had happened to her. Ghosting had happened to her when she was married. I was not married. I wanted to be. That was my plan. In my mind, this was my person, who obviously I now know is not right for me. So it was actually a saving grace in a way.
Yeah.
And so I've taken that learning. So a woman reached out to me saying it happened to her. Her husband had left her and their 3 children, all in private school, lots of overheads for their life. And she was now a single mum, living a life where she had to support 3 children. She was going through the grief, which I've explained to you I felt, and she felt was like a loss of life. But I didn't have 3 children to still raise and put through school, and I wasn't married, and I'm still, I've got my life ahead of me, and it's not mapped out. I don't have any children. And so taking her story, relating it to mine, and knowing that I had such good friends and family, my business and my health ahead of me, in some ways I felt grateful.
Yeah.
Today, I feel good. I feel very good, because my heartbreak business that I built off it, and it's not that I'm trying to plug, I'm just trying to explain that I didn't realise that there was nothing out there to help those who are going through heartbreak, divorce and loss of love. There's nothing really out there to help those people. And through writing how I was feeling and people reaching back out to me, I realised that they loved me back to life, and I was going through the same thing as they were. And also realising that each day that I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm out there and I'm going about my day and running my business, that's a good day, because I've seen the low days, and now I'm so appreciative of everything around me. And I was a bit expectant. I think I'd become a bit complacent. I didn't think so in my relationship, but I never really gained that closure. So to go back to your question, the hardest part was not knowing why, not gaining the closure, and somebody inevitably that you thought you knew, or I thought I knew, deciding that your relationship wasn't worth the fight, wasn't worth the conflict and resolution.
Yeah, that must have been really difficult to deal, because if you know why someone wants to end the relationship with you, it could be something, something personally about you. So if you've got something to go with, haven't you? The next relationship, you could be like, okay, I need to work on this or compromise on this. But if you've got nothing to go on and you've been ghosted, you're just left in limbo, I suppose, aren't you?
Yes.
I think it's really good that, you've found healing through writing and doing your blog, and you also opened up a platform other people out there who has had nowhere to turn as well. And, you know, it's amazing. So you've not just healed yourself, but you've also healed loads of other people as well in the process. So that's brilliant. Brilliant in itself. So great.
I totally. And for me, like, that was my saving grace, and it was something that helped me through. And you know, it's funny, you were just saying about how you feel, and I think, you know, you and I, we've been through breakups, haven't we? And we've experienced the grief and having to move on. The one thing that I didn't realize about the ripple effect of being ghosted, and not having that closure on a relationship that normally is the norm to go through, I didn't realise how out of control in my life I was going to feel as an imposter, because it knocked my confidence, because the only thing I could think of, it was me. It was all me. The reason this didn't work is because I did something wrong. I didn't communicate myself. I didn't give myself the way he wanted to. So, oh my gosh, the effect it had on my confidence, my self-esteem from conducting meetings, you know, I've just felt out of control, and that was the worst thing, I'd say.
I can imagine.
And Rena, you were saying that, you know, you've had your experience where you have not wanted to be in a relationship. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what process a ghost goes through. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. You know, I was in a relationship for 7 years. For the first 3 years, everything was fine. And then, so I don't know what changed, when it changed. I just know I woke up one day and was like, how did I get here? I couldn't even tell you how we got there, but I was so unhappy. We didn't really talk. All we was doing was just doing things for the kids, basically, and that's why we was together. Our relationship was based on the children and the family, so we didn't really have much intimacy. We didn't really do anything together. You know, family holidays were family holidays. Going out for a meal was, you know, with the kids. So we just didn't really have any us time. And the relationship broke down. He would sleep in another room. I'd be in one room. I was on the computer in the front room. He'd be in the dining room watching telly. You know, we just had no communication whatsoever. And I didn't want to be with him, but at the same time, I didn't want to put my children through not having a father figure and being a single parent. I think that's what scared the most out of me, was being a single parent with 2 children. So I persevered, and I just stayed in the relationship, and I honestly thought I would be in my 50s, or, you know, or at least till the kids got older, with this man. So I used to lay down next to him at night and really not even, you know, not wanting to be there. It was just horrible. I lacked confidence in myself as well because of it. I turned into this person who was just miserable. I just was so unhappy. When I look back at pictures of myself then, I don't recognise myself.
Wow.
The woman that I see today, I love the woman that I see today. It's been a work in progress, a very long work in progress, but it was just not nice. You know, it's just not nice. But I just put it along because I thought that was it. For me, at that time, that was the best my life was going to get. And it's sad. It's horrible for me to even sit here and say that to you now, but that is the truth. That's the truth of the matter. I just thought that this is it. This is my life.
But the thing is, Rena, like you say, you know, it's horrible, but this is the truth, and this is how I felt. I mean, that there are so many people out there today that are being ghosted and that are going through that turmoil of wanting to ghost their partner. I think it's great that we're kind of lifting the lid on it and exposing it, that, you know, I today don't hate the person that ghosted me, because inevitably that person was not meant for me and we were not meant to be. But it's interesting how you give the other side of the coin, because there are so many people sat in their relationships, in their marriages, going through turmoil because it's not the life that they had planned. It's not the life that they want. They're not happy, but they are staying from pressure from kids, their family, from expectation. And I think it's great that you are just being so open about the turmoil that you went through. We all deserve, like, ridiculous, you know, happiness. And if we're not happy, that, I don't think it's great to go someone. And I think it's, you know, that you didn't do that. You persevered and you went through. But you know, we're all human and it's the human experience. If you want to do that, it's getting to grips with why. And I just think the best thing to do to end a relationship that's not right for you is to communicate that, give that person closure, give yourself, like, leave with your integrity and leave with your dignity and your head held high, and saying that you did the best that you could do, but wasn't right for you. But ghosting, bottom line, don't think it's a good idea, do you?
No, I don't. I'm a firm believer, though, that, you know, everyone has to go through their experiences on their journey to become the person that they are today. Like, if I hadn't have gone through that, I do believe that, you know, I might not have met my partner that I'm with now, happy relationship of 11 years. And I don't believe that I would have learned those lessons. I could have been making the same mistakes in that relationship, in this relationship. Does that make sense? So in a way, that past relationship has kind of, you know, what's the word I can use? I've learned a lot from that. It's built the foundations for me to have the relationship that I've got now. Does that make sense?
Amazing.
Without that, I could be making all those mistakes now and losing the one who I do call my soulmate.
I totally agree, and I think, like, the bottom line of everything that we are discussing today, particularly with this topic, is that, you know, no two relationships are the same. And of course, forgiving yourself for not a relationship that didn't work out or isn't working out. I think that not, you know, especially if you've been ghosted, just acknowledging that not everyone you ever date is going to ghost you. You know, and for those who are ghosters or ghosts, whatever you want to call, you know, forgive yourself for doing that, and just, you know, knowing that it's not right. And it's, you know, so yeah, the bottom line is the learnings that you've taken from wanting to do that, and the relationship that you've gained. I have gained so many learnings about healing, about resilience, about what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not, and also deepening a relationship that I'm in now, acknowledging every step of the way when something isn't right, because I want to resolve it immediately.
So that comes back down to communication again. Yeah. Communication is key with everything, not just relationships, any kind of relationship. If you haven't got communication, you know, that's a vital part of, you know, growing and evolving. And, you know, you can't evolve without communication. You just can't in a relationship, because you're always going to be going against the grain, aren't you?
Yeah, and so, I think it's amazing that we're kind of talking openly about wanting to ghost someone, because in the press today, all over the world of dating experts, matchmakers, we all talk about ghosting because it's a thing that's on the rise. The inability to deal and to communicate. And so talking about what it's like to be a ghost really exposes the fact that it's not an easy task for someone who is doing the ghosting. It's also, you know, such internal conflict, if that's even the best way to describe it. And so, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Rena. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely fine. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to the end of this podcast about ghosting and being ghosted and the effects and the learnings and the communication involved, to wrap up heartbreak season and breakup season. Thanks, Rena.
Thank you.